let me disabuse you of the idea that there is somebody at the wheel, that there's a rational, sane, composed adult who's manipulating events, and though things look bad, things look rough, that at the end of the day, they'll all just magically work out. There is no magic man at the wheel. In this particular case, you have hubris and you have brinksmanship. Both of those things, just like in the Cuban Missile Crisis, can lead us to our end. While people go about their day, sipping their cappuccinos from Starbucks, driving in their cars to work, all of their concerns of an individual, an individuated unit of consciousness, who has all of the concerns of drama at home, drama at work. Bob at work is an asshole. Bob at work is preventing me from doing X. Well, I am going to fuck over this person in order to get more. Or for that matter, I'm just going to be a nice, decent human being and go about my way, and I'm going to do this or that. Whatever the dramas that people deal with, and those dramas are real to the individuals that are dealing with those dramas. There are larger contextual issues. In those larger contextual issues, I don't necessarily know how much media penetration it's had. I don't pay attention to mainstream media per se, only in as far as do the show. There are terrifying events that are taking place. When Donald Trump pulled out of the INF treaty, the intermediate, what is the acronym? The Intermediate Missile Treaty is preventing the intermediate missiles within a certain span from being fired. Right here. To forego land-based weapons. Signed in 1987 by Ronald Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev, within ranges of 500 and 5,500 kilometers. Land-based missiles, essentially, scrub them. It's not allowed. It's not just the treaty itself. There's a certain de-escalation of tensions from what almost ended the world in a Cuban Missile Crisis. And it almost ended the world not, with people making rational choices on flawed intelligence. John Bolton is a maniac. For all those people who thought that Donald Trump was going to be this kind of peacemaker with Russia, and all those other people who thought that Donald Trump was a Putin puppet, all of you are wrong. For all intents and purposes, the moment that John Bolton was brought into the mix, any idea that this guy was some kind of peacenik, or any idea that this guy was going to make some kind of peace with Russia, went out the window. John Bolton has a particular ideology of the world, and anywhere that you put John Bolton is going to enforce that ideology. He is whispering in the ear of a reality show host. That reality show host is taking it in and is essentially a puppet. Deep state. You don't know what you guys are talking about. Take a look at this. This took place, what was it, a couple of days ago? No, yesterday, November 1st. Right here, I hope it shows. If there's any hiccup in the video itself, I have a lot of windows open, so sometimes that adversely affects the video. Let's see, 1 second. Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty. That's what it is. I wanted to give it. I don't like just saying the acronym. The acronym is nice, but I want people to know what it is. Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty. I've done videos on this before. I just couldn't remember the acronym. All right, so right here. Take a look at this. Take a look at this. That's beautiful in a terrifying way. I'm a sucker for technology and science. What you're watching, or what you were watching, was the United States ship firing a missile, or what they call a kill vehicle, and slamming that kill vehicle into another projectile. Essentially, the thought being, we're shooting another missile out of the sky. This is, for all intents and purposes, Star Wars. Now, I have nightmares at the objectives of the U.S. military, meaning this kind of world domination, and this world domination, particularly with regards to space. This is them saber rattling. They're not doing this just to do it. Now, to be fair, the two previous tests failed, but one of the other tests succeeded, so it's not necessarily a bulletproof system. And even with that, that's assuming this is like a modest test. It's no reason to believe that any country is just going to send one missile. It will likely send a volley of missiles. Nonetheless, the United States has successfully saber rattling and showing their might, knocking a bullet out of the sky with another bullet. I can't think of the movie that did that, but that's what's taking place. Now, within the context of that, there's context. There's always a context. But take a look at this. This is Russia doing his own saber rattling, showing his hypersonic missiles a few months ago. This is supposed to be invincible and impervious to Western NATO forces that seek to bottle Russia in. Take a look at this. Yeah, there's more. China shoots down another missile in space. I thought this was a satellite in space. But earlier, China shot down a satellite in space, which sent off alarm bells to the United States. This is February. China shoots down another missile in space. I'm just going through headlines. October 31st. Allies show off might in NATO's biggest war game since post-Cold War. NATO began the main phase of the military exercises and display of force meant to underlie its ability to deter Russia, because they still believe Russia is going to go barreling into the country. They're still fighting communists. It's amazing. The Soviet Union fell and they're still fighting Soviets. Right here. This is in September. Russia launches biggest war game since the Cold War with more than 300,000 troops. There's more. Russia to hold live fire drills outside of Norway amid mass drills. Now, here's the catch. This is going on at the exact same time of this, and within the same area as this. Meaning, Russia to hold live fire drills outside of Norway amid massive NATO drills. This is where your world is. This is where your world is. Just so we're clear, Flint, Michigan, it's anybody's guess whether they have clean water. I suggest people take a visit to California and walk through the homeless towns and encampments. The United Nations came to the United States and said some of the poverty conditions were like third world countries. We are having a fight over whether or not we are going to supply health care for millions of Americans that still don't have it even after Obamacare. Infrastructure is crumbling. This is the world that we live. But no expense is spared for boondoggles, military boondoggles. Part of, and I'm not going to keep this long, but this idea of the INF Treaty goes beyond this idea of just let's not kill each other. It allows a luft. It takes the knife from the throat of the other person. Okay, I'm not going to murder you if you don't murder me. Now let's at the very least have the capacity to talk to one another. That's not innocuous. That's actually a big fucking deal. Let me close these windows. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. Think about for a moment how you go about your way in your society. Are you really worried about the other person putting a knife to your throat, hitting you in the head and taking your wallet? In some places that you live in the United States, yes. But the majority of the country, no. You go about your way. Now, if the situation of the country changed, you, as an individual, would also change. If that guy has a gun, I need a gun because I need to protect myself from that guy getting a gun. And I'm saying this from the standpoint of countries. They are creating a new arms race. It is incentivized by the United States, who is, for all intents and purposes, a weapons manufacturing country, who sells weapons to all over the world. When Donald Trump went to the other nations in Europe, he wasn't doing it purely for this idea of, I want you to create more weapons or buy more weapons just to buy more weapons. It was because they were buying them from us. They were buying them from us. When Russia is selling those S-300s or whatever to all these various countries, and the United States is talking about putting sanctions on those countries for buying them, they're doing it for the weapons contractors. I hate to tell you this, but your president is working at the behest of corporations. He is not working in your interests. It is a small body of 1% that is going to advantage themselves magnificently off of what Donald Trump is doing in that office. And I understand that he seemed different. He seemed somehow out of the ordinary. And yes, he would say things that was, let's say, gross. Establishment hated him. Democrats hated him. But you got to face the fucking facts. He is doing things that is bringing us to the precipice of conflict. Those countries are taking those actions in the context of us taking our actions. I'm trying to get that across. None of this is isolated. The actions of the United States have consequences abroad. Other countries respond to the things that we do, and if we're nuclearizing, if we're upping our armament, if we're maneuvering our forces around NATO with this idea of military conflict, what do you think those countries are going to do? What do you think they're going to do? It's fucking aggravating. I wonder what people felt like in this idea of World War I or World War II, where they could see it. They could see it. They just couldn't do anything about it. Let's see. Somebody is using Streamlabs. So let me log into Streamlabs. While I do that, who's here? Employment and workers' rights are cornerstone of a functional society. Yes, and not just that. Not allowing the society to get to this point. The selection of Hillary Clinton, of Obama, of Clinton. An argument might have been made at the time that those people were necessary. But at this point, you are at a new day. And that new day, that status quo nonsense doesn't work. Not just doesn't work. It's to some degree radicalized the society. You've made the society worse off. The people in the society haven't gone, meaning from the economic standpoint, their lives have gotten harder. Their lives have gotten more difficult. And in that difficulty, you have chaos. I understand there's certain racial attitudes that are in the country itself and a percentage of Americans. And that as the country becomes a majority nation, that whites take a certain attitude about it being that way, meaning this is not purely an economic argument at this point. This boils down to the attitudes of some of the people in the country. But I would almost wager to you that the economic difficulty of the individuals makes that worse. It makes it more pronounced. It makes it more pronounced. Let's see what's going on. Let me log in. We're utterly detached from the decisions that take place. Like these notions of freedom. You have the freedom to choose Pepsi and Coke. Great. What about the freedom to not have my tax dollars go to building shit like this? What about the freedom to not have my tax dollars? Lord Bolton. I can't say John Bolton anymore without adding Lord of the Black. Sight and warden in the swamp. Yes. Tut, 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 tut. Brian Williams can only get so erect. Oh, God. I need to show that video where Brian Williams starts quoting poetry when the United States is launching missiles. Oh, God, it was gross. It was gross. Those missiles killed people over a bullshit Syrian chemical weapons thing that nobody proved. They didn't even do an investigation for, that John Mattis was saying that they were still looking for evidence for. And he's like touching himself over this. Like, oh, God, look at the missiles fire. Yeah. Brian Williams could only get so erect indeed. Problems are greater in emotional context because they have little else to spread their attention. Zoroaster. George Pagog. Order of the Silver Mustache. Yes. People like Bolton need to be banished from government. If Obama prosecuted George Bush, would Bolton be here today? That's the interesting question, right? That's the interesting question. Land, scary thought, and it parallels the whole Sanders DNC thing. At what point does Iran, China, Russia draw a red line and start taking America's rhetoric as proof of intent? I suspect they do. I suspect they already do. Thanks, Obama. Yes, thanks, Obama. Jay Scott, he agrees. I suspect they do. Just because, how can I say this? The saber rattling is not in a vacuum. In the same way that the United States is showing these missiles and doing these things are to show force. We can defend ourselves. Look how strong I am. I am a big, strong man. I can punch another man in the face. That's what they're doing. Now, in the context of China and Russia, they're doing the same. They're doing the same. They're doing the same. China, Russia, and Iran have already taken action. Yes. Yes. They already considered this an issue. If Obama actually governed like progressive populist candidate Obama claimed to be, we wouldn't have Trump. We wouldn't have Clinton. We wouldn't have 9 wars. That I agree with. That I agree with. With a slight difference. I know this sounds weird, but Obama was a black candidate. I know people don't necessarily evaluate that when you're talking about politics, but it doesn't matter. He's functioning in a context where, you know, you could be a president that just so happens to be black, but you can't be a black president. After the first 4 years, however, people knew who Obama was. The familiarity was there. There are people who would say, I have black friends. I'm not racist. The reason people say stuff like that is because from the standpoint of an individual, they can make a connection. I know who this person is now, and in knowing who this person is, I get this person. This guy doesn't have warts. This guy's kind of just like me, and in being like me, I can deal with this. However, the masses are faceless. I have a context of those people that are kind of out there that is not necessarily individual in this way as individual. Same thing with Bill Cosby. Part of the reason that Bill Cosby was such a dramatic hit and a positive thing up until the point where he was raping women was because of the role model that he set. And it gave across this impression of, oh my God, they're human beings. Will and Grace, same thing. Same thing. Oh God. Mitt Romney and John McCain would have been way better than Obama. That I don't believe. But Jay, what you miss, what you in the Cedar stuff miss, is that you radicalize your society in this way. Your candidate that you voted for failed miserably. She got the stuffing beat out of her. And instead of having a recognition of, oh my God, the candidate that I supported got the stuffing beat out of her, why did she get the stuffing beat out of her? You turned around and blamed the voters. Or at the very least the people you watch blame the voters. West Virginia went for Donald Trump. West Virginia is one of the poorest countries in the nation. 25% of the kids in West Virginia are dirt poor. Instead of evaluating, oh my God, why is West Virginia voting for Donald Trump? It's voter shaming. Dude, at some point it gets embarrassing. Baltazar, when you run as a progressive and govern as a corporatist, that's not change, that's more of the same. Yeah, you fundamentally burned the mic. You told them you were one thing and you were something else. Bernie would have crushed him. Bernie would have crushed him. Yes. Grant Jarvis. Oh, by the way, hello. Oh, by the way, hello. B. Jarvis. Hello, Jarvis. By corporate puppet standards, Obama was okay. It's not that I have disbelief that he's wrong across the board. I don't think that at all. Would Mitt Romney have been worse? Yeah, I think Republicans are always worse. Like in regards to, or more gross, more unempathetic. But that doesn't give carte blanche for the Democratic Party to use identity politics as a wedge and use identity politics to ignore economic issues. Oh, wait, I can take all this money. I have this racket where I can take tons of cash. And in taking tons of cash, I can scream about identity because identity is the only thing that matters now because I have a batshit crazy Republican Party to pivot against. Either you want to change your country or you don't. In fact of the matter is, electing corporatist candidates that is going to continue to do some of the same doesn't get you there. It doesn't get you there. You need to evaluate why Trump lost. Why Trump won. Hillary Clinton got the stuffing beat out of her. And instead of evaluating that, it's going after the voters. It gets embarrassing. The issue is your party. The war that needs to be fought is your party. The fact of the matter is, Democrats should have been able to landslide all of these Republicans. These guys are fucking knuckle draggers. They're knuckle draggers. You're losing the knuckle draggers. You're fucking losing the knuckle draggers. Polls are showing millennials have pushed advanced polls to 500% margins. Good. Good. I want them to. A Democrat would only put it in the tip. A Republican would break it off. Oh, that's nasty. That's nasty. But instead, they sued Russia and ran to the right. Yeah. Instead of them dealing with their issues, it was all Russia. Sam Cedar gets on his show and attacks Jimmy Dore because Jimmy Dore is the problem. Susan Sarandon is the problem. I would argue that people like Sam Cedar is the problem. That's what I would argue. Ultimately, not holding the political class accountable, that failed. That utterly failed. It gets embarrassing at a certain point. But shame apparently is not one of those things that these people feel, so fair enough. The Republican will also force you to carry the tip to turn. Right. And then not want to cover it after the fact when they just abandon it in you. Yeah, pretty much. All right, I'm going to end this here. If you guys enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe. And you guys can always support through Patreon. Let me make sure I haven't missed anyone. Getting off. Hillary Clinton doesn't want anyone to get off made-up charges before she gets off the very real charges. Least of all, she doesn't want Bill to get off. Oh, that's an old one. Fair enough. That's an old one. Fair enough. All right, guys. I'll be back shortly. I have an interview with Bernie Sanders. Not an interview, a debate between Bernie Sanders and I think it's Zubada, if that's his name, the gentleman in Vermont. Whereas Deborah Wasserman-Schultz ran from Tim Canova like, her hair was on fire. And Tim Canova, that analogy is going nowhere. But she ran. She didn't necessarily have the debate. She ducked like nobody's business. Bernie Sanders, with a 40-point lead over his Republican opponent, had the debate. Fucking A, Bernie. I'll end this here. Thanks all.